Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. We're doing some Maskwitches of Forgotten Doggerland today. How exciting. I've been looking forward to running this system for quite a long time now. We hope you're excited too. But before we start to talk about the system and we start to talk about what players we brought along for the ride, I am going to do the usual promo because that's what everyone tunes in for. It's the thing we're all most excited about. And down below, you can find links, many interesting links, but mainly ones to our Twitch and to our YouTube. You're watching this on one of those, please check out the other one. Twitch is where we stream live like this, and YouTube is where it can be found later in video on demand format. We have a lot of systems, a lot of stories available on our YouTube now after a couple of years of streaming. Check them out, browse them several times, 100 times, 1,000 times. Click like and subscribe, etc., etc. You'll also find links to our social media, our Discord, our Patreon. If those are the kind of things that excite you, then please do delve into those. We currently run 2 weekly campaigns on Twitch. Mondays is Vason with Johnny, a free league game of Victorian folk horror. And Wednesdays is me with Simbaroom, another free league game of dark, twisted fantasy in a land generally full of people who should know better. But there we go. We also run at least one shot per month. We're trying to run 2 at the moment. The only reason there wasn't 2 this month is because one of them's had to be delayed to July. But that's what this is. This is a one-shot, a single session story. And this single session story that we're doing, as I've already said and promoted and everything else, is the lovely Maskwitches of Forgotten Doggerland from Handiwork Games. It's set in the Mesolithic period. That's the Middle Stone Age, for anyone who isn't up on these such things, in a place called Doggerland, which was the extensive land bridge that linked Great Britain with mainland continental Europe up until about 8,000 years ago, when it was subsumed first by the changing climate causing the rise of waters, and then rather dramatically, probably by a large tsunami that washed it away and buried it forever, asterisk, under the North Sea, which is where it is now. And as I say, has been for 8,000 years. People lived in that land. We don't know really what they were like, but maybe they were like the people we will meet today in Maskwitches of Forgotten Doggerland. And with that in mind, let's start bringing on our players. And you know what? We'll start with everyone's favorite player. It's Pierre. Hi, Pierre.
Hello, Matt.
Hi. How are you?
I am well. I'm good, Matt. I'm excited to play a bit of Maskwitches, a system I know well.
Absolutely. After having browsed it this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it is exciting, actually. I am hyped about this system. Genuinely, I think it's really cool.
Cool. Awesome.
Hopefully, we will see some of the cool features of it.
We will, and we'll talk a little bit about our characters as we introduce people, which will also necessitate me kind of introducing the concept a bit, I think. So in Doggerland, people exist in clans or families of semi-nomadic hunter-gatherers and herders who roam the landscape in territories they call their own. And it's a landscape where people... kind of the existence they lead is a very spiritual one, and there are spirits that interact with these people in all kinds of ways, and the members of the people who are responsible for protecting them or communing with spirits are called Maskwitches, so called because they wear masks. They also carry amulets, and those are also interesting, and we'll get to those later. But Pierre, why don't you tell us about your Maskwitch a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm a young Maskwitch called Tatapek Lakefoot, and yeah, I'm sort of a little bit scrawny. I've got like a my leg is one of my legs is like really kind of withered and like sort of dull grey, and it's not really a spoiler to suggest that I have been bitten by a venomous snake, and this prompted me to experience a kind of a vision. It would, like, in my belief, which is not obviously all we have is our beliefs in this world, but this was the sort of punishment for my two sisters who were having some kind of disagreement, that summoned a spirit that this like poisonous creature let into my body, and through that the spirit was driven away, but so too was one of my sisters. So I am yeah, I guess that is like my origin story. I have ever since then walked with a limp. I am pretty I'm slow, and perhaps I am a little I don't see the bad in people very much. I am very trusting. I am, and that is perhaps another feature.
Maybe to a fault, or to or both,
or to an amulet,
or to an amulet. Yeah, absolutely. You are also because we're going to introduce the concept as we roll into this game of all of our players are from two different. We'll be using the word clan in this. I think it's a word relatively without baggage that we can use for this. But family would do just as well, or group. But there are two clans involved in this, and I believe Tatapek is of the lowland clan, who spend more time by the marshland in this part of Doggerland.
Yes, and that was where I went wandering and was bitten by a pattern snake.
Absolutely.
Ironically, probably one of the pattern snakes that our clan actually thinks of as being a very important, like, spiritual.
Yeah, and I think without
symbol of.
Back in the times we're talking about, there was probably a number of poisonous snakes it could have been, but an adder or a viper is a good choice.
Is the likely
Europe, so,
kind.
Yeah, is the likely kind of snake. I think it's fair to say that your lowland clan definitely has a healthy respect for adders, but probably they venerate more something like a grass snake, which is more endemic to marshland and doesn't. I mean, if it bites you, it doesn't poison you. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's a good bet to be around.
Get off okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, let's bring on our second player, and it is Inga. And Inga is playing Fovia Stonebear from a different clan than Tatapek, which we'll get to in a second. But Inga, why don't you tell us about Fovia a bit?
Yeah, Fovia is maybe with older, kind of early 20s, maybe 22 or so. Slightly kind of bulkier frame generally, slightly taller guy, and I guess kind of more notably featured having after a sort of hunting accident in his youth, one of his eyes changed colours after that from as a result of the kind of injury and that was kind of suffered, which was sort of a turning point for sort of becoming going under the wing of a Maskwitches and into that training. So yeah, slightly kind of more sort of bulkier, looming kind of presence. Yeah, so one green, one now kind of greyish blue, kind of paler eye as well would be the kind of other notable feature. But yeah, from the mountains, more mountain kind of higher up clan. Yeah.
What do you say?
You're on mute, Matt.
Up?
Yeah, more sort of hill folk.
I said what I said, Pierre.
Yeah, hill folk, Highland people,
who down.
who in turn have a kind of veneration for the beast known as the aurochs, which, for anyone out there unfamiliar, is a breed of extinct wild cattle from Europe and Asia that was considerably larger than any breed of cattle we have today. If you want a kind of a comparison to size, think of kind of like larger bison, but looks like a cow, a big old, heavily muscled, terrifying cow. So there we go, and let's bring on the other person from the lowlands of the marshes. It's John. Who's playing a character whose name you pronounced before the stream, and now I can't remember how you pronounced it.
Hiag.
Hiag Rainstone. Tell us all about Hiag, John.
Hiag became a Maskwitch to basically try and make amends for what their mother had done. Her actions had brought a spirit down on the family by basically hunting badly and causing unnecessary pain to prey animals. Hyag is quite tall, usually smeared in some kind of colored dirt. They are a painter. They seek to basically bring nature into wherever the tribe have settled with paintings on their shelters and themselves.
Absolutely. Worth noting, of course, that for people living in Mesolithic Doggerland, there's no such thing in their perception as not nature. They are part of nature, and nature is part of them. Whether that's true from an archaeological perspective, as people, even as these groups already affecting the landscape around them, I won't get into the literature. But you are also part of the same clan, the lowland marshland kind of snake clan as Tatterpeck. So there we go. And our final player today, it's Sam, coming at you from Simbaroom. Sam, is how do you pronounce the name of your character? Is it Iboli?
I think Iboli, yeah. Makes sense to me.
Iboli slow hair. Well, why do you tell us about this other Highland Maskwitch?
Yeah, also from the Highland tribe. A relatively tall, kind of about 20-ish, something like that. I don't know if people in this time would even have a precise idea of their age, but it's about 20.
Absolutely not. If anything, the way people would mark time would be seasons, not years, right? So maybe if they counted seasons, I don't know if they would or not. You know, it's up to you. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. They would likely count in terms of seasons rather than, or maybe cyclical seasons. So maybe they would. Anyway, sorry, I'll deviate a lot in this.
A lot of counting, but in any case, for our purposes, is about 20. He's quite tall, but relatively thin. He has a kind of a bushy beard, but has a long-healed wound on the very top of his head, which is causing it to miss kind of a patch of hair where it's kind of scabbed over. He became a Maskwitch basically because when he was younger, he was kind of harassed by what he believes were the spirits following a death in his family, and it was the Maskwitches that were able to provide him some comfort and to deal with these spirits. And he basically, from that point, gave them no choice and said, "You're going to teach me to become a Maskwitch," because that was too important for me. And eventually, he was allowed to become a Maskwitch.
Absolutely. And I think what's interesting is, and this wasn't prompted from me, really, we had a talk about what spirits were like in this world and how we wanted to present them. And we wanted some degree of sort of, are they real in a scientific sense, or are they part of like the perception of the people of the world around them? And, further to that question is, well, what is real? If not the things we see and believe around us. But without any prompting, I feel like the four of you have all made, maybe damaged might be the wrong word, but like somewhat othered individuals, right? People who've kind of become, through the things that have happened to them, maybe slightly outside of the normal hierarchy of your families and your people. And perhaps that is a common route to becoming a Maskwitch. And being the person who stands between the other and the people. So there we go. I like that we've done that. So, okay. Maskwitch is an interesting system. It's certainly partly collaborative. So there'll be elements of that as we move through this. I I will put a warning at the beginning of the video, right here and now. For anyone who thinks this GM is stepping on stuff that you should be letting go, I'm a massive nerd about this period of time. If anyone wants to like say he doesn't do, why would you? I am a trained archaeologist, and this is one of my periods of speciality. So if you got a problem with some of the things I'm claiming, and maybe I am wrong, I'm probably a bit out of date on some of the research on things, but I'm generally going to try and keep this quite accurate, for a given meaning of accurate, given how little we know about the people of this period. So if I feel like I'm being picky, I probably am, yes, and that's the justification. So, you know, and that's just that's just how
we signed up for archaeologists.
They signed up for this. They signed up for this. So so there we go. With that in mind, let us step into Forgotten Doggerland with a scene of Fovia and Iboli. You are currently descending down the easiest path from the highlands down to the marshlands adjacent to that. All of your people are traveling with you, as they do pretty much everywhere. You are on your way to a common ritual center between a number of different clans, families that are maintained as you travel through your territory, known as your land song, for on cycles. Every now and then you'll come to this ritual center, you'll maintain it, you'll add to it, you'll make sure it's still livable and habitable, and then you'll move on and return when that season comes around again. And other clans and families do this as well. And sometimes, you know, they bump into each other here, they trade, they talk, and they might meet each other at other parts of their territory as well. Land songs cross over with each other as different groups of people kind of exploit the land that they're on for food, for supplies. This particular ritual center is where essentially where three lands meet. To one side are extensive marshlands and fens that roll on more or less as far as the eye can see. At your back is the rolling hill lands that are where you mostly call home, and then off to one side is a stretch of grassy land that, you know from long experience, quickly turns to dunes, the dunes to wider sand and pebble, and then the vast water, the cold, salty water that another group makes their land song mostly on. You are going to this ritual center because the folk of the hills and the folk of the marshlands for years now have been not in direct conflict with each other, but perhaps at odds. There's been very little trading, there's been very little talking, and this is mostly because of an unpleasant incident that happened years ago, whereby one of your clan struck and killed one of the Marshland clan. This is years ago now, and many in your family won't even remember it because they're too young to do so. It's probably on like the edges of your memory, because I'm thinking it's maybe like 10 or 12 years ago, right? But either way, recently messages were sent between the people of the hills and the people of the marshes, and it was decided that, you know, ties should be brought closer together. It is very dangerous and destructive to have two family groups so close to each other who are at odds. If open violence broke out, it would probably be the end for both of your clans. So that is what you are here to do. You are striding down the hillside alongside the other members of your clan family, and also accompanied, as they do everywhere, by the two aurochs found orphaned as calves and raised by your clan. I wouldn't think of them as domesticated as such, but certainly they've grown up with no herd other than yours, and now they stride alongside you. They are called variously. One is called friend and the other is called companion, and they slowly make their way, every so often lowing a deep bass noise that thrums through you if you're stood too near them. And I'm going to say you're walking alongside each other. If you want to ask any questions about who people might be in your clan or whatever, I have a number of people that I can use, including one elder witch who might be useful at some point later. But feel free to take it away.
I have one question based on what you've said. From our knowledge, or from what our kind of clan believes, what we've been told, what was the cause of one of our clan members striking and killing the person from the marshlands? What?
No one is particularly willing to talk about it.
Okay.
But from what you have heard, it has been blamed on that individual, who is incidentally dead and has been dead for several seasons. Perhaps why this is happening. They became your clan's hunting leader, and he had a very wicked temper, to the point where a lot of the members of the clan would speak of how he was, possessed by spirits on occasion. And presumably one of the lowlanders just perhaps said the wrong thing at the wrong time. Probably both of you were at some point on the end of being struck by this departed man.
Okay.
But not with an axe or a spear, which is obviously what he did to murder another individual.
Okay. Companion seems uneasy. Knows it's early to be heading down. Oh, I don't blame him. But people from the marsh, I don't know how reasonable they're going to be about this.
They'll be as reasonable as they must be, I expect.
I don't know if they must be very reasonable. Well, certainly. I mean, it's been agreed to meet. I can't imagine what they want from us other than peace, but it's troubling. It seems like no one in our clan has ever talked about it, and now we're bringing two together to talk.
Well, the people will do as they will. I suppose we have to appeal to the other Maskwitches. That's really the more important thing, I suppose.
Yeah.
You mentioned there that Companion was unwilling to move forwards, perhaps not happy about leaving. Well, you will have come to this place before, but who can tell why an Oryx particularly wants to do anything at any moment in time. Companion is, huge, kind of, their shoulder is over your height. And he is kind of dark black with a white ringed muzzle and large, fearsome horns. And, you said that Companion was unwilling to move forward, so maybe Companion needs some encouragement, which gives us a wonderful opportunity to use the dice system for this game, right? So Iboli and Fovia, you are near Companion, currently grazing slightly on the side of the rough. It's not really a path, but an easier route downwards. And the three of you are now lagging behind the rest of the hill folk. What are we going to do about this?
Iboli has a mask of communing with animals, which seems useful.
Why don't you tell us what this mask looks like?
I'm going to say this mask is it's like the skull of a deer with horns or antlers that have been removed and just tied back around, has ties to put around your head, but with no kind of lower face to it. And
no jaw,
yeah. But otherwise, it's maybe has some markings carved into it, which are more kind of vague depictions of things than any kind of meant to signify specific information, but maybe various animal sort of images carved on the forehead area of the skull.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, well then, if you have a mask that helps you commune with animals, every roll in Maskwitches is a d6. And what that means is that Sam will now roll a d6, and because he has a mask helping him, basically he wants anything but a 1. Will mean that he has persuaded companion to start moving again. So go ahead, Sam.
That's a 3.
That is a 3. And that's interesting. Everyone, by the way, every player has a magic number. And if that number is rolled, they can butt in and apply something to the narrative to change things slightly. If they want to. They don't have to every time. Weirdly, though, I think, Sam, you have 3, right?
Yep, that's my magic number.
Do you want to change things somehow? Kind of alter, have something happen?
Maybe nothing in particular happen. Maybe that friend comes back from the group to sort of nudge companion along and try and encourage him and give him a bit of moral support in this difficult.
Sure. Friend who is a little bit smaller and more of a kind of like deep reddish brown color with darker patches around her haunches and her forelegs. So what you're telling me is now you've got 2 Aurochs who aren't particularly interested in moving down. That's absolutely fine. And now what happens when you fail an obstacle? Right, is that I give you a consequence of this, a rough outline of a consequence, and you detail what that might be. So, and that can, I can literally just say the consequence is that the Aurochs isn't moving. It almost feels like you've given me that consequence already.
A 3 is a success because it's only a 1 that fails.
I'm absolutely full of shit. You're absolutely right. That's the case. Great, good start, Matt. So in this, I guess the presence of friend means that companion is encouraged to keep moving on, keep moving forward, to be closer to his fellow Aurochs, and the other 2 of you can follow on behind. And as you do so, we will cut down to further in this. It's not really a valley because it's where the landscape evens out into marshland. But on the edge of where this happens is a set of, for the time and the place, quite large buildings made of extensive, finely cut and hewn wooden logs that are built up to platforms with walls and slanted roofs, set on stilts, large, thick, embedded log stilts driven into the kind of soggy earth at the edge of the marshland. This is the ritual place. It has certainly been made grander than it was before this, at least partly by the influence of one of the elders of the lowland people, Alpha Soundbeam, who essentially 3 years ago it didn't look like this, and now it does, because Alpha is very, very good at building things and even better at getting other people to build things while she tells them where to build things. Hiag and Tatapek, you are standing alongside each other, looking up at the side of the hill where around 40 people, the hill folk, can be seen in the middle distance, kind of walking down the easier descent from the hill towards where the marshland folk are waiting in this ritual center.
How are you feeling, Hiag? I'm myself have not been sleeping well.
Are you worried?
I am. I think about the dead a lot, as you can imagine, and I sort of, like, my hand kind of grazes the mask that I have that I use for communing with the dead. sometimes I feel like I will slip beneath the lake with them. All this bringing up the dead. It feels bad, Hiag. You seem calm.
Think of it as putting the dead to rest.
That is what I hope for.
And maybe spend some time thinking about the living, Tatterpack.
Did we, Matt, did we know, do we know who the person was who was killed?
You do, and right now, stood a bit away from you, watching the procession of the hill folk down from the highlands, is a hunter of the lowland people called Aymar Wolfarm, who she's kind of stood there. It is her elder brother who was struck down by one of the hill folk, 10 or more years ago now, and she's stood there, kind of spear in hand. She definitely looks like she's not entirely happy about this, but also she's not about to break out in a storm of violence. But like she doesn't look happy, and she seems to be staring somewhat resentfully at the people coming down the pathway of the hill.
Is she alone?
Mm-hmm. She stood apart from the rest of the people.
I sort of glance over at Aymar. She looks... I am uneasy, Hiag. I am uneasy. What can we do to make this go well? Is it... Do we leave her to speak, or do we speak for... You were always the calmer one.
I don't know.
I
suppose we have to wait until they get here.
Are those... Or... What are those beasts? Do we know the beasts?
You will
Oryx?
definitely know what oryx are. Yes.
Do we know companion and friend?
I would say, like, the two of you share, the two of you's land song overlaps, right? Of the folk. Even if you haven't directly interacted with the hill clan before, you will have seen them, at least at this distance. You will have seen that they have two orcs who travel with them. I'd say you are familiar with their presence. It's weird. It's real fucking weird to you, though. That they would just take large animals around with them like that.
Yeah. You should forage. This is the way of things, you know. Find what animals you can on the way and leave them. How long does it take to... Can I perhaps try to get a sense of if the dead are upset by this? By this procession.
Yeah, sure.
If there is what is the feeling?
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, you tell me. How would you commune with the dead? How do you generally do that? I would assume it involves your mask in some way.
Yes.
But is there some kind of I hesitate to use the word ritual, but is there some general kind of rhythmic feel to your communing with the dead that you would tend to do?
Yes, it maybe looks a little bit like a twitch initially, like just a kind of, my hand kind of hitting my leg, just kind of, initially it doesn't seem like it has a rhythm, but it's quite a fast sort of pace. And then you can kind of pick up that actually I'm tapping out a very specific thing as I put on the mask and start sort of rocking back and forth, kind of humming along to the thing, and it kind of grows and grows. But it depends on the scale of the ritual. If I am, if I'm not trying to talk to the dead, that is a very difficult thing to do.
Are you trying to get a sense from them?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a feel.
Are they happy? Are they?
Yeah.
scared?
Are they angry? Are they confused? Or
yeah, and you're doing
that
this
kind of sense
by kind of looking inward into yourself, essentially, and trying to like you're kind of like, not to psychoanalyze this, but maybe you're entering a kind of trance state, or self-hypnotic state, to kind of understand your own feelings and the feelings of everyone else around you that you've picked up on about it. Right? Yeah,
because I'm confused. I'm feeling confused, and I want to. I'm kind of trying to resolve
absolutely
my confusion.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you? I'm happy having this be a role. And you do have the mask for it. And you know what? Describe the mask as well for us, please.
Yes. So the mask I'm imagining is like many separate like animal skulls with like lots of eyes. And then there is like a kind of a wooden part of it that has no mouth. And is like just totally covers my thing, because it is a kind of internal reflection.
So lots of kind of dead creatures representing the dead and dead humans as well. And then they can't speak.
Yes.
So you speak for them.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I rolled a 3. So
well, that's another one for Sam. So obviously it's a success, because I'll give you, as a success for that, I'll tell you how you feel things are, the state of things are, right? What you've picked up on, how the dead feel about this. But before I do that, Sam, is there anything you want to butt in with? You don't have to if you don't like. I do think it's a great little system, but I think like doing it every time your number gets rolled, you'll run out of things, right? Sooner or later. So it's up to you whether you want to.
I think given that this is more kind of an introspective thing, I'm not going to butt in with anything.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. Tatapek, you feel like the dead have some hesitation about this, because sometimes old wounds need to heal more naturally, right? Enough time would pass that no people would even remember that anything had happened. But there is something to be said for making new friendships and making a new peace between these two folk. So there is reluctance, but there is also anticipation of a better state of being between the two.
I sort of remove the mask, and I kind of smile to myself, and I say, maybe there is some hope. Maybe the lake will calm. Maybe there is a chance. And I sort of I go over to Hiag and I say, thank you for all of this reassurance. You've always been my rock, Hiag.
And Hiag does nothing else.
So as the hill folk are now reaching the bottom of the slope, and ahead of the general rest of them, two figures are walking in advance. One of them is the elder known as Lonvia Deer Arrow, who is he definitely sort of was the person in the Hill clan who pushed for this, for kind of amends to be made. He is a tall man with powerful arms and a very elaborately braided beard. And in front of him is kind of walking and running occasionally an individual who it's certainly unintended for him to have them as part of this party making greetings. A younger member of the clan called Deda Elkwild. So called because even though she is small and she is young, she is elk wild. That no one in the hill folk can restrain her or tell her what to do under any circumstances. And she is currently she almost seems like she's looking for something. as she kind of like wanders into the ritual place and walks around. She's been here before, probably when younger still, younger than her, maybe 12 years or so. But she's just looking around, almost kind of ignoring the marsh folk as she does so. Tatapek and Hiag, you see her kind of like approach and start wandering around. The behavior is slightly odd, but your Maskwitches, you know, you yourselves are a little bit odd. And she seems to kind of wander over to one of the large log buildings on stilts and clamber up and kind of peers around with curiosity in her kind of almond-shaped eyes before she disappears into the darkness in one of them. The leader of the hill folk looks slightly irritated at her going in ahead of him, but clearly, and this is also very known to Fovia and Iboli, it has long ago tried to stop attempting to control Dead Elk Wild, so it just happens. Are any of the four of you taking any initiative in trying to kind of be nearby or there when the two elders who are trying to forge this renewed peace start talking?
I'd maybe try to look more out for the Maskwitches rather than getting closer to the elders, unless that's where the lowlanders are.
It sounds like that's where Hiag is going to be nearby. Maskwitches are easy to spot. They have masks, you know, hung on their persons or held or whatever, and you can see one of them near to where they are gathering, and another slightly nearby, kind of removing that kind of like dead mask, probably as you're going down. Iboli, how about you?
I think Iboli would definitely want to be close enough to hear, while also being clearly like not, you know, trying to be involved, but to hear what is said.
I want to be as close as I possibly can be, because I am aware that in my past, the discord between two people has brought about a spirit, and this is like a tense situation that very easily could result in total disaster. So I can't help myself. I have to watch this.
Sure. Well, it sounds to me like all four of you are certainly going to be nearby. And Hiog and Tatapek, you are the only Maskwitches of the marsh folk, right? You were taught by an elder witch who has since passed away. Iboli and Fovia, you also have an elder witch, and he is not passed away. He is called Viahair Fishlong, and he is also going to kind of stalk over to where the leaders of the clans are standing. He's an elder witch. He's one of the oldest people you've ever met, very heavily wrinkled and long-limbed. As his name might suggest, he prefers to spend his time a little bit away from the clan, preferably fishing with no one else nearby, and will happily make this very clear. But he has taught you a lot as well, and he sort of stalks over with heavily dyed, layered clothing on kind of layers of reds and browns and yellows, and he stands there with his fishing rod as a walking stick, essentially, kind of like leaning in quite close to where the two leaders have started to talk. You all can kind of clock each other at this stage, and it also occurs to me that mechanically, I should have mentioned this before, I think, but Tatapek, you just consulted the dead. That's a very Maskwitch thing to do. And as such, you are going to get a reward, and that reward is a nap. Oh. That's nap, KNAP. It doesn't mean that Tatapek gets to have a little sleep. or Pierre, no matter how much he might want to. If anyone's where the word comes from, it's probably worth mentioning because we're going to be saying napping a lot and people might get confused. Napping is the process by which you shape flint or various other things, and each nap is a knock, is part of the rhythm of craft, right? And what it is in game terms, a nap is essentially the ability to shift a die roll up or down by one number. And obviously, if you roll like, in certain circumstances, if you roll a 1 or a 5, that might be quite useful in those. But they're also quite useful for another mechanic, which we might come back to later. So maybe don't spend them all. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. As you are all standing there, the two leaders, Alpha and Lomvia, kind of stepping close to each other. I think that the people of Forgotten Doggerland probably greet each other in quite a close physical way. So they step in and kind of embrace each other, and then step back. And you know what? Here's a custom I'll just make up off the top of my head. Both of them take a flint knife and snip just a small lock of hair. Lomvia from his beard, Alpha from her relatively kind of tightly tied and cropped hair, and they exchange it and tuck it into kind of little pockets on their clothes, as signs that they are giving something to each other in meeting like this. They stand there for a moment, and then they start to talk. And it's all formalities at this point, right? All the clans within this area of Doggerland have similar traditions. Many of them came from each other when groups would split off. And they are going through the rhythmic customs of these things, inquiring about each other's land song, about each other's clans, about the dead, about the spirits that have afflicted them. The only thing that anyone mentions in terms of spirits is that... Alpha mentions that two of the clan dogs have recently sickened. A spirit likely has poisoned their food or had an undue influence on them, but they are expected to recover after invocations were carried out by the clan Maskwitches, Hiarg and Tatapek. A fairly standard thing to have happened anytime anything sickens or a poor event happens. You made invocations to the spirits, and the dogs are not dead yet, so perhaps the spirits listened. Is anyone making any activity? This will go on for a while. So if you did want to interact with the other Maskwitches, it would not be seen as untowards. Most of the rest of the clans are stood nearby, kind of watching patiently and eyeing each other a little bit, especially in the case of individuals like Aymar, who maybe aren't so happy that this is happening.
I sort of nudge Hiag. I go, maybe we should find out from the others of our kind how the other clan is intending, whether this negotiation needs a little push, or whether everything will just run smooth as a grass snake.
I think maybe sowing some peace among the clan might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on the other side,
is already on her way over. On his way over, sorry. I think after hearing about the dogs, we'll head over and mirror the same greeting, cut a snip of hair, and exchange that with whoever is the nearest of the two of them, and say, I can look at the dogs if you want another pair of hands to help there.
Oh, I mean, that would be. I like look for reassurance from Hiag. Yep, that would be great. Yes, thank you.
I'm assuming we've met before at some point, right? Have we, or would we have met?
Probably not formally. No, because of the events, like the distance that the two clans have kept over the last 10 years or so. But at this point, Viahair Fishlong also kind of steps up and kind of peers around and then looks quite intensely with from his wrinkled, kind of leathered face at Fovia and Iboli and says, Your mistress, is she gone?
At Fovia and Iboli, or at Tatapek and Hiag?
Oh, you are absolutely right. It's at Hiag and Tatapek. Yes.
Yes.
She left us a few seasons back.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Just you? Just the two of you?
Yes.
We're all that's left.
So young. So young. Not ready at all. Show us your dogs.
Yeah, I think we should show him the dogs.
You two. Go with them in front. I'm an old man. I will catch up.
Follow us.
If they go to the dogs, I will be about at the same speed as the old man.
Sure. Yeah.
I will welcome Iboli.
Slow at all, by the way.
Okay, so I will be massively outpaced by the old man.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I will make something of a show of welcoming Iboli and Fovia and leading them to our side to look at our dogs.
Absolutely. The dogs of the Marsh clan are in kind of like a little. There's a little kind of pen for dogs that has been built at the ritual center, and there are maybe 4 or 5 dogs sat around. The two of them, they're not that ill, but they have been, they've been voiding things that they should have kept down and the like, and they're just kind of, they look a bit tired and are kind of sleeping things off. The other 3 kind of leap up and run around excitedly and bark at the new people as you walk in. If you're interested in I won't go into it, otherwise I'll fall down a rabbit hole of all mesolithic things. But if you are interested, we do know what kinds of dogs people in the mesolithic might have had. So, yeah. Which
I'd like to start examining them, see if there's any potential additional healing I can offer or anything I can.
Absolutely, and I believe
try that doesn't look like they've already tried.
You do have a mask for this very purpose, right?
I sure do. So I will pull out that mask. This is a mask that is, it's a fairly simple mask. There's not like lots of kind of grandeur to it. It's made with a wooden base with, basically it's been almost like painted in blood. And then there are kind of dried like twigs and leaves and other kind of medicinal herbs and things that kind of mostly cover it in a fairly intricate kind of pattern, but there are these kind of almost like kind of almost like a loose weave of kind of herbs and plants. You can kind of see the blood a little bit underneath, but kind of covered over with these sort of medicinal herbs and plants and things.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you give me a roll then of while you're communing with these animals to see how things turn out.
That is a 6. It is a healing. Healing is my good at rather than communing with animals.
Healing rather than communing with animals.
But, yeah,
sure,
that's
absolutely.
A 6 on the dice.
Well, you needed anything but 1, and a 6, I think, is obviously definitely a success in this, and also is no one's number, so no one gets to butt in. But you. After kneeling down and kind of looking over these sick animals, you think this is pretty, a spirit has clearly driven this animal to maybe eat something it shouldn't have done, and it has, thrown it back up. You don't think these animals are seriously sick. and you're pretty sure that they will recover just with a bit of sleep. And know if it was a person, you just say, you know, sleep for a day and then get up and go about your business. So you're fairly comfortable that they're in no immediate danger.
In a slight kind of, you know, thinking, you know, it'd be good to be able to show some like skill or help, be able to offer. Can I assume that there would be some sort of like plant maybe that helps at least like settle a stomach, that might just help with the recovery a little bit, and turn to Iboli and say, and ask him for some of those particular herbs, those particular plants that I know he's tends to have on his person.
Iboli will, I guess, produce these plants. Hopefully, having found some. I guess probably we have with our oryx, we probably have a lot of need for animal plants.
Yeah, I think so. And you know what we're going to go with? Like, I was furiously Googling things to give dogs with upset stomachs, but like all things on the internet are very confusing about these matters. But I think something that I would believe and that maybe would definitely be available to people at this point in time is bone broth. So that could be something you could certainly give these dogs to help settle them.
I'll turn to Hiag. I'm not sure if Tatapak has caught up with us yet or not. They should be fine. But if you give them this bone broth, it might make the next couple of nights just a little easier for the dogs as they recover.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think that was speaking to an animal, so take a nap as well. As a fairly witchy activity. Okay. So with the course of this sort of diplomatic event essentially underway, you can spend some time with your fellow Maskwitches as the clans, after the leaders have finished talking, the clans kind of come together and start speaking hesitantly at first, and then you know, people within this kind of culture didn't so much have specialities because everyone had to kind of be a jack of all trades and partake in everything. But there would certainly be people more expert at certain things than others, and you can see kind of hunters from the two clans sort of looking over each other's weapons and talking to each other about flint knapping and the like. You can see the ones more proficient in crafting talking to them. You can see the two clan drummers, who are the individuals responsible both for music, but also for tracking the rhythms of the landscape and the rhythms of time and space, essentially for the two clans talking to each other, comparing their bead nets, which are the kind of the equivalent of maps, and generally it all breaks down into just a pleasant meeting between family groups, which is something, you know, there are other clans within this area of Doggerland who this happens on a semi-regular basis with. It seems quite new because it hasn't happened for a decade or so with these particular people. As this sort of starts and maybe the day wears on and even maybe kind of starts to get a little darker, and a kind of a fire is struck that gives some level of light in the twilight. Maybe even small fires are set in the large ritual buildings, or the logged buildings on stilts. I'm just going to go round in a kind of order of play thing and talk about what people might be doing, how they might be sort of spending their time. And let's start with Pierre. Let's start with Tatapek Lakefoot, please.
I think I would be in general trying to establish. Do I know what happened to the killer of? Do I know that he is dead?
Yeah, it's pretty like he's notably not there.
Yeah. So after I sort of ask around, like I will have asked around about this, like why isn't he here? Why isn't the man who should be atoning for this? And after I find out that he is dead, I might actually see if I can commune with him. Again, that is the sort of yeah, I think I might see if there is repentance
Sure.
coming.
Absolutely. Well, tell me how you do this then. Do you do this among everyone, or do you step away to do it?
I absolutely step away. It is not wise to bring the dead among, especially non-Maskwitches, but yes, it is a very dangerous thing. So I walk. How dark is it? Is it?
It's twilight, so you can still see, but you wouldn't want to walk too far. Please, one of the notes in the book, there is no artificial light other than fire, and fire is dangerous and not large. So you don't want to wander too far away. You can definitely wander far enough to be like on the edge of the marshland, just kind of like 20, 30 feet away from the ritual center.
I think
no one will see you out.
Yeah, I walk to the edge,
twilight.
but I can definitely still see the I don't go much further than that,
you can kind of see the soft, like orangey yellow light on the horizon of where the sun is dipping, but you can't be seen from the ritual center. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I think I sort of arrange, maybe I just try and find some like sticks and I kind of form them into the shape of like a person on the ground. And again, I start sort of the kind of ritual tapping and humming and rhythmic kind of rocking back and forth. And I sort of pace around this figure that I have constructed. And I sort of start trying to see if I can find the right the right dead, and see if I can form a picture of him in my mind, and see how that. Yeah.
You have like quite a. How old did you say you were?
I am like on the younger end, so I'm probably like 18 in our kind of age.
So
I think I'm.
I am happy to say that when you were 6, you have a very rudimentary memory of what the man looked like, because obviously it was a big thing and further violence nearly broke out, and you remember adults shouting at each other.
Yeah.
And you have a vague, probably not very real memory of him. But like,
maybe it's the sort of thing that because the rest of our clan have talked about it a bunch, I have then like made it real. It's like, yes,
huge, terrifying. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, why don't you give us a roll for it then?
Okay, I have rolled a 1, which is
so
a failure.
A rare failure.
That I'm good at.
Unless you want to spend your nap to move it to a 2.
No, I think I accept this failure.
Okay. You tap. You kind of try and drive yourself inward into that place where you can feel the spirits and the voices of the dead reaching out to you, telling you kind of the things that telling you what of the things you see and you feel and you hear are true and not true, and it just, for whatever reason, it doesn't come. Maybe that man has been pulled somewhere far away, maybe because he took someone else's life, you don't know, but you can't seem to reach him and get a sense of it. Maybe you were just too young and you don't have a connection, like the connection you thought to that man in your head.
I mean, it was a bad impression I had of him. I sort of frustratedly kind of like shift the sticks out of their arrangement in the shape of a man, and obviously because leaving that kind of thing around is dangerous.
People would wonder why. Exactly. As you do so and you rearrange it, a voice, the origin which you cannot see because you could be 5 feet away from someone and not really see them in this light, says, "What are you doing?"
I turn to the source of the voice.
You see a small figure who steps forward a bit, and you see that it's the Hillfolk girl who was kind of came ahead of everyone else and was very curious. And she seems to be very curious again about what you're doing.
I was just trying to talk to your your man, I don't even know his name.
No, you don't know his name. No.
The one who caused this mess. But he was not around.
He died.
Just because someone's dead doesn't mean they can't talk.
No, he went somewhere else. Not where normal people go. You should come back to the fire. It's not safe for you out here. She reaches out and takes your hand.
I let her lead me.
She leads you quite forcefully, but not in an intimidating or aggressive way.
But I even still, because of my bad leg, I am really struck. Like I think I'm tripping and kind of getting hit by branches.
She will slow down as soon as it becomes clear that you're struggling, and just like leads you back to the firelight. Fovia, what are you doing while the event is happening? Essentially,
I think. Well, I was going to have a look for the young girl, was Dida, expecting that she's probably had an injury, having healed many of her injuries that she has accumulated after all of this wild running about over time, but obviously not found her. So ask Hiag if there are any others who need some attention, any injuries that you've not been able to resolve.
Probably not.
No.
I will offer then instead to. I can show you. We can an exchange of information. I can show you some how to make this bone broth for the dogs, and if there's anything else that's useful to know. I can share that knowledge if you've lost your elder witch. There may be things you don't know that we can offer.
That would be good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before.
So as I'm preparing it, I'll just kind of talk it through very matter of fact, as I'm feeding and what the kind of rhythm of giving out your dosage or like that kind of thing. Not that terminology, I guess, but and yeah, maybe just talk through a few of the sort of by rote almost some of the learnings about some of the kind of healing and things.
This is actually a good opportunity to talk a bit about how this information and how it would be passed across and how it would be saved. In a pre-writing society, there is a greater focus on what might be called rhythm, in terms of effectively a to-do list without writing, right? So things are memorized either via something like oral tradition, via songs and stories and tales told repeatedly to teach lessons and instill knowledge, or through sort of either mnemonic or physical reminders of things, which is where things like bead nets come in. It is not outside the realms of possibility that something like a recipe for this bone broth would be represented by a string with beads on it, and each bead represents a part of the process, right? And this is how you teach and how you remember someone. You teach them what the bead net means, and then you give them the bead net, and then they have, effectively, it's a recipe, right? But it's a kind of like I say, a kind of mnemonic recipe, and this is how bead nets work as maps as well. Great interconnected threads, each of the beads representing something in time or something in space, or a thing to do or a thing to not do, or how long I've already mentioned time, but how long something might make, how far you might have to travel. And the person responsible for this within the clan, the drummer, the person who sets the meter, the rhythm of life within the family. But for things like this, you would have smaller stuff like that. Maybe you don't do it via a sequence of beads. Maybe you do it via teaching a a short poem or a short song to Hiag that helps Hiag remember the process of making this broth. It's up to you how you want to do it.
I mean, is it feasible to maybe start creating to start the process of creating a new bead net to be able to pass along as a
Absolutely
gift to this
yeah,
clan?
yeah. It will take
Yeah.
time, but the intention is that you will be here for a number of days, and as long as you remain kind of focused on that, you should be able to gather enough material and make something while you're here.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll start to explain that to Hiag, and that's what I'm doing. And obviously, I guess I won't finish. We'll get a start on that at least.
Get a start on that. Sam, Iboli.
I think two things. Firstly, Iboli would like to go and see our Oryx, but also I guess do we have dogs?
Yeah, both clans will have dogs as well. Yeah,
I think to go to them and maybe a little bit of a talk on, let's be friendly with their dogs to our Oryx. Like,
sure.
Those dogs are friends. Like, it's not a wild pack of dogs. They're not hunting you. Like, let's not do anything rash here.
Sure, yeah. I think like all the kind of clans in this area probably essentially all have dogs, probably all descended from an original group of domesticated dogs by the people of this area. So they're all kind of the same breed, you know? Not that there's a breed at this point in time, but like, so I think there will have been some nipping and some barking and some chasing around. But yeah, you're going to encourage them to be good dogs.
Yeah, just keep it friendly. Last thing we need is dog violence on top of the human violence we're here to solve.
Absolutely. So the Oryx won't be as much of a like the dogs will steer very clear of the Oryx for kind of obvious reasons. But yeah, you can go spend some time with the kind of dogs of the hill folk and try and influence them to be calm and so on and so forth. Have you got any mask that helps you with this, or an amulet that hinders?
I have my animal communing mask.
Yep, absolutely. Why don't you tell us what it looks like, and then tell us what you communing with them seems like?
It's the same mask as I use for the Oryx, the like deer.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I'll probably have something that all the dogs like to eat. Always helps, and I'll go gather our dogs all around, and just spend a bit of time with them. Try and instill the sort of attitude of like, we're among friends, everything is good, everything is calm. These people are for the time being part of our same community. Whatever our dogs sort of enjoy the most, if they enjoy playing a bit, if they enjoy treats a bit, I'll just try and get them in their comfort zones and make them kind of more relaxed than they might be upon meeting another big group of people, which is probably very uncommon for them.
And I think you maybe have some like scraps of rabbit or something like that, maybe that they'd enjoy, that you could pass on to them. Sure. Why don't you give us a roll for that then?
Okay.
Another 3.
It's a 5.
It's a 5. So that's obviously a success because anything but 1. 5 is John, right? I think. Do you want to butt in with anything at this point?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. You managed to calm the dogs down because they were getting a bit rambunctious. But you definitely calmed them down with some treats and some talking to. You can see perhaps on the edge of the firelight that one of the lowland clan's dogs and one of the hill folks' dogs are getting along a little too much, perhaps. And they all seem to be behaving relatively nicely with each other.
Okay.
Thanks to your influence.
After that, I think I would just go and, if he will allow me, sit by Fishlong. Maybe that's up in the air, but just see if he has any.
Yeah,
what he's doing.
He's probably snoozing in one of the larger log buildings, kind of like near a fire, kind of enjoying the warmth from that. After clearly it's going quite well because there haven't been any arguments. I know the leaders have been talking for some time now. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be anything too bad. The only person you've seen looking in any significant doubt about any of this at all at this stage is one of the lowland people, someone who had the look of a hunter about them, with very long hair and a heavily scarred arm, who just hasn't spoken to anyone since this started and is kind of like steering clear of doing so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a note of that, but we'll in general be calmed by the fact that our elder witch seems to be calm and think that everything is in hand.
Yeah, I mean, he does like sleeping as well. So.
Maybe.
Yeah, who knows? John Hiag.
I am going to partly to celebrate and commemorate this coming together, and partly to try and repeat it to make it more certain. I'm going to basically paint a mural of the two tribes coming together and pairs of the different tribes talking and interacting and maybe dancing, even if someone isn't dancing, just because that's getting along.
Sure. Are you going to paint these on the inside of the log buildings, or?
Yeah.
Okay. You gather some crafting supplies and you do so. As you start, you are joined by someone who frequently paints alongside you, the lowland drummer, who is known as Uelpek Kindquick, who is a short and slight man who almost always has yellow ochre markings on his face and body, and he kind of smiles gently at you and just starts painting alongside you. You know, any paint work like this tends to be a group effort because it's time consuming to grind the material and to carry it out. And you start to kind of like paint on the inside of the logs, and this is an ideal opportunity to start talking about something really, really interesting about Paleo and Meso and Neolithic paintings, which are often obviously we know them as typically as cave paintings, right? The reason we know them as cave paintings is because a cave is a place where they can survive for long enough for us to have seen them. They will undoubtedly have been on wood and hide and various other things as well, but a cave is a hidden stone place where it won't fade and it won't be wiped off, and blah blah blah. Has anyone ever seen or been to look at a cave painting or seen a lot of images of them? Because you may already be somewhat familiar with this. Okay. Many cave paintings look like they have been for a lot of time people thought they were sloppily made because they were made in kind of like obviously going to mean torch or firelight, right? And it's difficult to kind of do that, so they have like multiple, often a line would be like multiple lines or dual up, and like you'd get like an image of like an oxen and there'll be another like one just over from it, and it's just kind of like it's an odd setup that makes them look odd and maybe slightly poorly made to modern eyes. The reason they're often double lined like that is because when you look at those in firelight, it looks like they're moving. It's like a 3D effect made using just paint and fingers and firelight, right? So when you look at a lot of, and this was discovered almost entirely accidentally by someone actually setting up a fire in a place where there was cave paintings, which you don't tend to do because the smoke from the fire can horribly damage them, right? But it's an interesting effect where you get the flickering of the light of the flame, because you won't know solid light other than from the sun, right? All light to you is, other than the sun, is flickering. So when you paint these effects, and I think Hiag and Uelpek are probably doing that, right? People dancing or talking or celebrating, and it will look within, you know, after a few hours work, maybe some of these figures look like they're moving along the walls of these log structures. Depending on how well you do, of course. Have you got a you've got a mask for this, right?
I do indeed.
Why don't you describe the mask and then make a roll for me?
The mask is wooden and carved to like kind of look like the branches of a tree at the top, like interweaving, and it is covered in color, mostly reds, oranges, yellows, and browns, because those would be the colors I most have access to. But there are a couple of very protected areas of blue and green, which are more sort of coastal pigments that I won't get them very often.
Mm-hmm.
And my process, it's also got it's beaded along the bottom. So as I move, as I paint, they catch the light and dance and bring more color to it.
Mm-hmm.
And as I put it on, every time I pick up a new pigment, I smear a streak of the pigment somewhere on the mask.
So it almost becomes like a palette, like you know, and by now is probably a mass of slowly growing like overlaid color smears.
Getting heavier and heavier and
heavier and heavier with each season.
Yeah.
That's great. Do you want to give a roll?
Yeah. That is a 3.
Which is a success for you. And also, Sam, your magic number again. Why don't you
do the Highlanders have a painter?
Yeah, it'll large. Yeah, I mean, everyone will do painting,
Okay.
in the same way everyone does everything. But like there'll be people who are more expert at it than others, and it's entirely up to you who that might be. If it's a character who's already been introduced, or what you or Inga, or you can say whoever it is.
I don't know who it is, but maybe a character that hasn't been described too much yet. But
Sure.
maybe one of the Highlanders comes and starts painting, not like on top, but in a friendly way. Like, hey, let's paint a slightly bigger thing together. Let's make a slightly larger.
Maybe they have like a little pouch that has some of that, as you said, like that more remote colors, the greens and the blues, and kind of like vibrant, kind of like reds.
Sorry, I was going to say, would we maybe be able to find like a strong pink, because that would be a super rare color.
Yeah, sure. There's like a couple of dabs of pink that can be used. And a lot of these like more odd colors, as you quite rightly said, John, thank you for doing some reading, you would get from shorelines and kind of like more ocean resources and stuff like that. And one of the other clan that shares this ritual space is the Shoreland clan, who venerate, and don't laugh, snails. Sea snails specifically, right? And a lot of these pigments are from crushed up shells. And they clearly traded for these, and they had little dabs of like pink and green and blue to each of your figures, so that the colors kind of like flash as the firelight flickers over them. Yeah. Here we go. And you know what? I didn't mention it for the last one, but communing with animals, cave painting are both, I think, witchy activities. So feel free to take a nap each. There we go. Okay. The evening goes by. Obviously, in this kind of culture at this time, people would largely go to sleep when the sun goes down and rise when it comes back up. Obviously, in the dead of winter, that there may be some leeway there. Otherwise, you're asleep for a long period of time. But we're not in winter here. We are in kind of mid-spring. But essentially, as time goes by, people start going to sleep. They the reason some people stay up is to watch the fires, to ensure they don't start burning down these log houses. But with someone there just kind of sleepily tending the fire until it turns to kind of like glowing coals, people in each building slowly start to go to sleep until the only noise is the occasional kind of like little yip from one of the dogs outside, the large thump and roll of one of the oryx deciding they want to lay down and go to sleep, and the sounds of wind in the low trees outside, and the chirruping of insects from the marshland. Yeah. Has anyone got any issue with kind of going to sleep in this environment?
Nope, I will attempt to sleep.
Okay. You all do indeed sleep. And you wake in the morning, each according to your own time as dawn starts to break. It's really quite low light still outside as you all wake up. A couple of members of each of the clans are kind of moving around. But everything just seems to be perfectly normal. One of the oryx starts lowing outside, probably demanding some food. Yeah, is anyone going to do anything in particular?
I don't know if I will be able to, but I might see if I can find Elkwild. See if I can. I mean, obviously, I only saw very briefly.
Yeah, she led you back and then went off on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I am not 100% hopeful that I will be able to find this person, but I would like to. She said something curious to me, and I would like to see if we can.
If you're going to look for her, here's a point where we have a die roll that isn't something that's necessarily something you've just picked out as something you're good at with your masks.
No.
So here's where I suppose that a layer of certain kind of narrative complexity is added to the game. Not narrative, essentially, we have to decide whether Tatapek is good at looking for people or not.
Yeah.
And we have to decide that based on the things he's good at, things he's bad at, and any of the details about his character, right? So what are the two things that Tatapek is good at?
I'm good at enduring pain. I'm good at communing with the dead. And I'm bad at running. And I'm bad at noticing lies. So it could be, if I'm asking around, if people lie to me about having seen her or not, or in other ways placate me, it could just be that I am bad at this. Running also
maybe catching up to her.
Running reduces my ability to cover ground. So I don't I feel like I have two options for finding this person: cover ground, talk to people,
and you're not good at either.
And I'm not good at either of them.
Okay,
so I feel like I'm probably not good.
That sounds perfectly legitimate. So let's try and do this then. So in that case, can you make a roll, and only a 6 will be a success?
It's a 3.
Oh my god!
I swear I've rolled this like it's
I'd ask if you want to use. Yeah, I'd ask if you
want
to use your.
We've got to stop using our joke dice. You know, which are all threes on all faces. We should have thought about that ahead of time, guys. That was a mistake.
So, I mean, your nap wouldn't help you move it to anything. Sam, is there anything you'd like to butt in with here?
God. You're looking for the dead Elwood. I guess maybe that, someone has probably seen her go to a place where she is no longer there and may well tell you, like, oh, she went off that way, and, like, you go looking for her, and by the time you're even vaguely near there, she's like in some completely other place. So maybe you just get sent on a bit of a wild goose chase to some area, not a little bit far away.
Absolutely, I think that's a sensible idea. And Tatapek, as you've wandered up, someone told you, oh, they saw her on the slope of the hill, and you wander over there. You don't see any sign of her, and you kind of like come back.
I am absolutely shattered by this because it takes me so much effort to go anywhere, and this person instructed me to go up a hill, and I am just, by the time I emerge back to the group, I am just like, like exhausted and like breathing really heavily. And I just kind of collapse and like not I just sit down and kneel, and I'm just looking a bit dejected.
As you do so, a voice behind you, the second time you've been caught unawares in the last kind of day or so, says, What were you looking for, Snakeman?
I again turn. I assume this is Fishlong?
This is Fishlong.
I was looking for that wild girl, the one with the one who seems to have so much energy.
The elk wild. Aye.
Yes.
As am I.
You too. She said something that drew my interest. She said, I tried to, I hope you won't take offense, but I tried to speak with your man, the one, I do not know his name, but the one who we're all here for. I was not successful, but she said that he had not gone as others go, that maybe he was somewhere neither on the lake's surface nor beneath the lake, perhaps. I did not know what she meant, and I was no match for her ability to run, so I lost her very quickly. But do you have any ideas what she may have been speaking of?
I would not search for too much meaning in the words of that girl. I've had my eye on her for some time, and I wonder if it will be I who teaches her or the other way round. But you looking for her is timely. She is not here, Snake Man.
No.
And neither, I think, is the one who was watching her last night. Your hunter with the scarred arm. They are both gone. I have been awake since before daybreak, and there is no sign of either of them.
We must tell the others. We must find them.
Must we tell others? Other than witches.
I see your point.
Are you fully aware of how fragile what is happening could be?
Yes, I think so. Perhaps you are right.
Then go. Bring the other witches to me.
I will make... excuse me while I catch my breath. Yes, right away. And I will, as best I can, try to make my way to the others and gather Hiag, I think, first, because I will know where he tends to be.
Let's have definitely a little scene with Hiag, I think.
Hiag. I'll motion them over to me.
You look like you've run more in the past day than I've ever seen you try.
Yes, that is perhaps a problem. There is a thing that might threaten the balance that we have so carefully struck. in these last few days. Do not make a noise too loud. I know what you're like. Two are missing. The wild girl and our own hunter. What's his name? Sorry, Matt.
Her name is Imar. Imar Wolfarm.
Wolfarm is missing. You saw the look in her face. I was told to bring you back to the to Fishlong, Verheer.
Where is he?
Back that way. We should gather the other witches. I don't think this is a thing that the regular folk would. Perhaps they would jump to conclusions too quickly, and this is a thing that needs to be solved quickly. Yeah, that is my feel. Do you know where those other Maskwitches? I don't think I caught their names.
Fovia and Iboli. I saw them sleeping out by the Aurochs. You go back to the Elder. I'll bring them.
Okay. Thank you. I need to catch my breath.
Sure. Lest we go too far down this road, it is worth noting that Tatapek will walk a great deal all the time. He literally won't survive if he doesn't.
Yes.
It's more the speed that that gets in his way, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It is my rush.
So, Iboli and Fovia, you are asleep by the Aurochs, apparently. So let's rouse you via Hiag.
Which is give whoever's closest a bit of a nudge.
Hmm?
Which is there are matters we need to attend to.
Okay, so urgently.
Yes. Very urgently and quietly.
I'm going to ascribe, by the way, perhaps the hill folk have been slower to rouse themselves because, and I probably should have mentioned this before, one of the things that demarcates the two clans is slightly different methods of dress. And whereas the lowland folk, their headwear tends to be ochre-tanned deer hide hats, kind of like caps that maybe come down slightly. The hill folk have much thicker fur hoods that help protect them against the cold winds on top of hills, and they're very cozy, right? And also muffle noise a bit. So I think perhaps you if you have no particular reason to rouse yourself, maybe you naturally sleep a bit longer because you're bundled up a bit more. That was just my way of getting the hoods in, really.
Makes sense.
It's a weirdly adorable image.
Bernie will take down his cozy hood so he can hear properly. What is it here? Why?
Is there somewhere we need to go to speak about this?
Vihir and Tatapek are waiting for us over there. It's I believe it is about the wild elk. Elkwild. That was her name, wasn't it?
Her name and her nature, yes. All right, we'll be there, and we'll.
Okay.
Get moving.
You all head over to where the Elder Witch is stood aside from everyone, and where you can talk quietly and obviously won't reintroduce the concept we've already talked about. But yeah, the summary of it is he's been awake for some time and believes that overnight both Daedar Elkwild and Imar Wolfarm have gone. This I do not
Is
know.
that unusual for? Is that unusual for the small farm? It's not that unusual for Dita, unfortunately.
In the middle of the night, it would be. Yeah.
In the middle of the night would be okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well,
It's very dangerous.
That's the first bit, not the second bit.
Is it usual for Iomar to wander off?
No.
No,
No.
not at all. The hunting girl, it was her brother who died those years ago. Yes?
Yes.
I think you best go find them.
I think so too.
I found tracks along the ridge between the marsh and the hills. Perhaps a sign. A spirit wants you to work together. Wants us to work together. Treading the line between the two land songs. The leaders will not be happy about this. We should not tell them. You should go. I can spin my own tale about you. But is there anything you need before?
Do you have any idea what may have caused this? Is this the work of a spirit, do you think? Are you sure?
He kind of takes in a lungful of the clear morning air. Perhaps. It is difficult to tell. But it does seem there is something of a spirit on the wind. I thought I heard something in the night out there. Beyond the water. Data, the wild elk, she does not hear well, but what she does hear, sometimes it's invisible voices. I wonder if she has heard fully what I only had a glimpse of. I do not know. Or perhaps this sister seeks vengeance for wrongs past. Either way, you are young, but you protect the people. You heal the people. Return them.
We will.
Do you have ways in which you can travel? Paths? Places?
We may need to consult the drummer.
This is closer to the lowland territory than ours. Speak to your drummer then. Try to ensure his silence.
Okay. Shall we go? Shall we find this find our man? Wellpeck.
He's a good drummer.
Wellpeck Kind Quick right now is down by the edge of the marshland where a small clear stream runs into it, and he is washing his hands clean of all the dyes and the like he used last night.
I will go down to see him.
Alone?
Oh, I'll
Yes.
join.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
No, I just because you looked like you weren't going to say yes, but you're welcome to come.
Oh, I'll always tag along with Hiag.
How about the two hill folk?
I have a question to ask of Fishlong, maybe after the other two have left.
Sure. How about Fovia?
Are there in this kind of temporary settlement like some there's like makeshift like shelters, like there wouldn't be like permanent structures, but there would be potentially some forms of structures and things that we set up as like while we travel? Like would there be somewhere where
No,
there would essentially be
the semi-permanent structures that are at the ritual center are big enough to host all the people of both clans. There are, let's say, 5 large log buildings on stilts, so everyone can dwell within them. There is a small, I believe I said there was like a kind of a little paddock or run for like the dogs, and the Oryx just stand and lie down where they will, really.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask if we had any like essentially more like camp type bits, which would be smaller.
Yeah,
and
there are
distinct.
smaller kind of tent or lean-to type structures that you build regularly as you travel, but they aren't built here right now. The materials for them.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I doesn't seem like we've got time to do all of that. So if we don't have those to hand, then I won't do what I was thinking about. Yeah, I will. I'll just stay with Iboli and wait for the others to come back and talk to their drummer then.
Okay, Tatapek and Hiag there. You are with Wellpet Kindquick by the river. As he sees you kind of coming over, he gives you a kind of bright smile and sort of waves as you approach and carries on, kind of like rinsing his hands clean.
Good morning, Wellpack.
Good morning. I think it went quite well last night.
It did. And I hope it continues in the same way. But we would like some information, and with it your silence.
What is the matter?
We are... There are reasons that are taking us away from the meeting temporarily.
I see.
And we would like to know if you have any information on the way we should take.
Well, where are you going?
I will gesture in the direction that Pierre mentioned that the tracks were.
Yeah, kind of a ridge that runs kind of between the marsh and the... I see. It's part of the land song. I mean, I have a bead net that you could perhaps borrow and take. How long are you going?
We don't know, but we hope to be back before the talks are finished. Hopefully we won't be long. Okay.
Getting Wellpack to agree to this is definitely an obstacle. Yeah, how does being good at convincing someone to give you their bead net and stay quiet about it figure into your good ats and bad ats?
There's nothing direct, but I'm wondering, I mean, I don't know how obtusely I can use these, right?
Well,
I don't
tell
know.
us what they are, and then
Well, there's good at painting and good at hiding, and bad at killing and bad with family, by which when I wrote it, I meant like direct family rather than the tribe as a general.
I mean, the tribe is a family.
Is less of a real concept.
Yeah. Like children will be raised by the clan rather than...
But if I can go slightly obtuse, I don't know whether they're good at painting. The fact that we paint together regularly and may have a good relationship.
Yeah, and hiding, you're kind of concealing what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say you can go for it with a good app. That's fine.
Good. Right.
So anything but a 1.
That's a 4.
Who has 4s?
I do.
Inga, would you like to add anything?
I think like you'll get the bead net, but you're maybe just not too sure about how how good a job you've done at convincing it not to be, and
He's just going to spill his guts.
It was a bit of a sus request, right?
Yep.
And like, this joining has happened and then suddenly the witches are gone. Like I think you're maybe just a bit worried it might draw some attention, and you're not sure how well you've concealed this.
Sure. Kind Quick kind of reaches down at his side where all his bead nets are pinned against kind of the length of twisted hide he uses as a belt. And with a kind of rather reluctant look at you, he unhooks one of the bead nets and passes it and says, This is the land that runs between the 2 land songs. Just be careful.
I will.
And stay close to the rhythm. There are areas out there that, well, this will not help you with them.
Can you? Yes.
No, I mean, I did not mean. No.
Can you say any more, or
you might need to elaborate on that? I'm not sure what you mean.
He's warning about something being off rhythm.
He's saying if you carry on in that direction enough, the bead net will not help you.
Right, that's fine. I get it now.
It runs out or it becomes inaccurate or something.
Yes, exactly. The information is not there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay.
Indeed.
All right. I think we can safely say that you stride off with this bead net. And you know what? Let's show you what that looks like. That is the kind of thing that a bead net looks like. Ooh, got slightly wonky sides when we don't have an even number of people. But that's kind of what it looks like a long thread with each of those beads kind of signifying either time or space or other forms of information. And it should hopefully help you with your journey along this path. You gather together and look to sort of stride out from where you are along to this ridge running between the marshland and the hills. As you do so, you do notice that even as early as it is, one of the lowland hunters, the head hunter of the lead hunter of the lowlands, who is a man called Gwardet Hardspear. He's a very large individual, barrel-chested and balding, and he is stood kind of near the ridge. He looks to be doing a little amount of spear fishing in the slow, sluggish water near there. And he would certainly ask where the hell you're going if you just wandered out near him. So some form of sneaking past or deception or the like is almost certainly called for, because he won't just let you go past without passing comment and possibly telling you not to.
Which business?
Sorry, is that just what you're saying to him, or he hasn't even noticed any of you yet?
Okay.
I was going to try and
right.
sneak past
I
him.
assumed that was
No, he's just
once
stood
that
there.
happened. Yeah.
He's
Okay.
just stood there, so you know.
So I'll walk on unless he stops us.
Yeah.
I will Can I try and find a route where we are less obvious?
Yeah, sure.
Like behind a bush or through
Yeah, just a bit
ground
out of
divot or
sight of
something.
him, or yeah, around.
Yeah.
Keeping the ridge between you and him, or something like that. Yeah, absolutely. How has what you have make you good or bad at that?
Because I'm good at hiding.
Okay, there we go. That's
Good
fair enough to me.
skateboard.
Give me a roll.
That was a 5.
Okay, who is 5?
Me.
That's you, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to add something?
Butting in can also be. Wait, do I
Positive.
want to add something? I'm going to say we managed to go past without him seeing, but we leave some kind of a trace that we've gone this way.
Okay.
So no one's alerted now, but if someone comes looking for us, they'll know it was us.
What kind of trace?
I think maybe as we go around the dip in the ground and through bushes, my clothing snags on one of the bushes as we go past and leave like a tuft of hair from my over clothes or whatever, and it's obviously mine because it's stained in a unusually bright color.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, you manage to kind of negotiate your way around the particular ridge that he's standing on, and he's not on the ridge because he's spearfishing, but kind of like round the other side of it. So the group of you kind of like manage to sneak away, only pausing briefly as your clothing catches on some brambles nearby, and you'll make your way past the ridge and out. As you travel along the edge of the marshland over the next few minutes, you do hear some kind of hue and cry go up from the ritual place behind you, and as you look back, you see several of what look like both clans kind of standing on the edge of that ridge and looking out towards where the direction in which you're traveling. So clearly, either someone talked or someone spotted you moving away, but either way, they make no move to go after you. As Fovia said in our alternate reality, witch business, right? And we'll take a break there. We'll take a 10-minute break because I really thought we'd get through that section in like an hour, which really promises a much longer one shot than perhaps I'd anticipated. But it's fine. It's all good. So we'll be back here in 10 minutes, folks. So have fun in the intervening time. Goodbye.